I will buy 33 from you, and I'll trade you that movie theater for all of these properties.
No.
Good morning, friends. We are the Board Game Barrister, your local game shop in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and we have just finished playing Waterfall Park. I am Anthony, joined today by Andy and Glenn. We had a very good time with this one. If you like bidding and stealing properties from each other, or just making terribly bad deals, but the game was a whole lot of fun.
Welcome to Waterfall Park, where we're going to play as a group of competing park owners who are trying to wheel and deal with each other to come out the richest at the end of the day. When the game starts, we're going to put our big park board in the middle of the table here that shows a bunch of different locations we can start building attractions. We've also got a deck of location cards, some attraction tiles, our bank of money that we'll be gaining throughout the game, and then each player has their own set of frames that they're going to use to claim locations during the game. Once your board's set up, you're going to jump right into round one, and to start each round, we're going to look at this little indicator up in the corner that's going to tell us how many cards each player gets and how many tiles each player gets. Each card has a number and then a little map that tells you where that number appears out on the main board to help you find it quicker. But the main thing that matters on that card is the number, because you're going to be able to claim all of the locations on these cards. And before you do that, you have to discard a number of cards, which is also indicated on our little tracker here. As you're deciding which location cards to keep, you can also take a look at your tiles for the turn. Each of those tiles has a type of attraction, which is indicated by the image on the tile itself, as well as a little number in the corner. That number is the number of this tile you'll need to have adjacent to each other to have a full completed set of that attraction. So in the case of bowling alleys, you need to have 5 adjacent to each other to complete that set. The higher that number, the harder it is to pull off the set, but the more points it'll be worth if you do. Once everyone's decided which locations they're going to keep, they're going to show those to the table and then claim those spaces using their frames. And once everyone's played their frames out onto the board, it might look a little bit something like this. Now we had some good luck here. We were able to claim quite a few locations that were either adjacent to each other already or pretty close to each other and ready to become adjacent. That's important because you can only play attractions into locations you own, and remember, those attractions have to be adjacent to each other in order to score in sets. Once those frames are all out on the table, we're also going to show everyone else at the table the tiles we've got for the round, because those tiles are going to become trading assets. And now the real game begins, because once everyone knows the locations other players own in the park, as well as what tiles everybody has access to, we are going to start trading. And the rules for trading with each other in this game are almost as simple as there are no rules. You can trade anything you own in this game, from location ownership to tiles to the money, which is going to be worth points at the end of the game. I might turn to the blue player and say, "Hey there, blue player, I see you own spot number 61 on this board here, and I would love to own that, obviously. You can see what I've got going here. And I can see over there that you've got a nice set of carousels started. I happen to have a carousel tile. Would you like to trade my carousel for ownership of spot number 61? And that player can respond any way they want to. They could say, yes, sure, let's make that trade. Or they could respond in other ways. They could say, nah, I don't really love that deal. That feels like it favors you a little more than me. Maybe I'll trade you spot number 61 for 51, but I still want the carousel. And then the deal can expand from there until it's agreed upon or falls apart. Trading tiles is as simple as handing a tile to another player. Trading locations means we're literally going to swap out whose frame is on those locations when the deal goes through. And eventually we'll get to the point where everybody feels like they've made all the deals they need to or are able to, and then we'll move on to the end of the round. So the first thing we'll do after the trading is everybody has the option to put any tiles they'd like to in any spots they own out on the board. Of course, most players are trying to play those out in sets so that they can score more points. And this is often worth doing because even incomplete sets score you some nice points. And once everyone's played out the attractions they want to for the turn, we're going to score up the round. To do that, we're going to look at every single attraction that's been played to the board, whether it was played this turn or on a previous turn, and score them in sets. So we have 3 attractions in an incomplete set. This tells us it's worth 5 points. So we're going to grab 5 money out of the bank, and you can see here that when we do eventually complete our set of 5 bowling alleys, that's going to be worth 12 points. We play a total of 4 rounds, and at the end of the game, the board's going to be mostly full with locations and attractions. The deals will get more complex, and at the end of the day, the player who has the most money at the end of round 4 wins it all.
I love the trading in this game.
It's
because
so good.
It's no hold barred. I like the fact that you can do anything you want pretty much on a trade. There's no, oh, it has to be an even. It's whatever. If you want to give away 11 points for something in a foolish deal, then you don't know as much of the time because the math is hard to figure out.
What are you referencing? Such a specific...
I don't, just picking a number.
I make some really bad investments that I think are going to pay off, and in a few turns, they might have. Unfortunately, it was the last round of the game. That's my fault.
I mean, if you want a duck, so you could start filling out ducks and actually talk about 25.
That's
again?
what I'm. That's what I'm doing. That's what I'm doing.
That's interesting.
Because I could go as high as 11 points for, and this for the 2 ducks, the ghost, and this thing.
Deal.
The gameplay itself: draw some properties, claim the ones on the board that you want. Here are some properties. Now trade amongst yourselves. That's the entire crux of the game, and it works really well. The fact that you don't have to worry about, oh, well, I have to make even trades one property for another, or anything like that. And people can also intrude on the trades that you're going to make. Oh, hey, don't trade with him. Do this thing with me instead.
Yeah, it's so great that you know you're never going to get screwed over by the mechanics. Like, you can get an unlucky draw and not have the stuff you feel like you need, but that immediately becomes stuff you know other people need most of the time, and then it's all about going out there and wheeling and dealing and getting it from those people and trading them for the stuff that you know they want. So it was never the mechanics messing with us. It always felt like good little dopamine hits to go, I'll give you this for this, and if the person says, yeah, that seems great to me, you're like, great, this was useless to me, and now I get something great in return for it. It also really rewards being like open to changing your mind and being kind of creatively agile with the decisions you're making. You can get really crammed up on, that just doesn't feel like a deal I want to take. I think I gotta say no to that, stuff like that. And we had some really big deals just shift fundamentally because somebody was like, I could fix this for both of us in a really big way, but bear with me because it's going to be awesome for both of us, and sometimes it worked out great.
We swapped these 2 tiles.
Wow.
I get you 2 movie theaters, and you can have both of those.
That's tempting. I'd be okay with that.
Find a space for a movie theater.
Cool.
Sure.
Oh, I have to touch on my favorite thing about it is simultaneous play. There are no turns. I'm not sitting back while Anthony and Andy are making a trade because it's Andy's turn. It's like,
You're interjecting with your own.
We're all interjecting on stuff. We're all everything's moving around all at the same time, which makes the game also play really quick.
Yeah.
How long did it take us?
It took us an hour, and that was really interesting because the first round of the game, it's a 4-round game every time you play. The first round probably took about 7 minutes. And then the second round probably took about 15 minutes. By the time you get to the final round,
the fourth
you're
round
deep in some really interesting trades, and it was probably a 25-minute round.
Even with that, the game didn't feel like it took very long.
No, it did
which
not.
is really nice.
A 1-hour game that you can dependably play in exactly 1 hour, which is what it took us. That's perfect. Great.
We have a holder for our pieces in play. We have a sorted tray for the money. I mean, the components of this are top notch.
Oh yeah.
The board where these all lock into place.
And as an aside on specifically the ownership of the location, every tile here does have a symbol on it for colorblind accessibility, which is fantastic. The presentation is impeccable.
All right, that was Waterfall Park. Thank you so much for joining us for this one. We had a really, really good time with this game. It kind of lives in a league of its own as far as the trading and wheeling and dealing and debating type games. You don't see a ton of these days, so we're really happy to have it on the shelf. And we're glad you watched. Thanks so much. As always, hit that subscribe button if you want to see our new videos every week when we post them. Leave a comment if you got one. Hit that like button. And check out our online store. Of course, Waterfall Park is in there, as well as a bunch of other cool games. For the time being, we will see you next week. Thank you so much.